I want to boost your exam grades by 10%. If there's 50 points on a test, I want to get you those 5 extra points using the tactics in this video. For those of you who don't know, my name is Aaron. I'm a straight A student at McMaster University, and this channel is dedicated to helping you live your best student life. Let's start with tip number 1, start ridiculously early. I promise this is the most obvious tip in the video, but I just can't leave it out because it's by far the easiest way to boost your final grades. If we take a quick second and graph what students do going into an exam, most of them are too worried for not studying much, and then 1 or 2 days before the exam, they enter panic mode and study for like 6 hours straight. This is the strategy almost everyone uses, but it's so stupid. If you can study less total hours, but spread it out over a longer period of time, the benefits are endless. You save time, you reduce stress, you don't mess with your sleep, and most important of all, you have time to deal with any hiccups that come up along the way. This last advantage can get you that extra 10% on its own, because we've all been in that situation where you're studying and you realize you missed a class or something doesn't make any sense, but it's already too late to go and figure it out. Also, the reason that we can study less and still learn more if we start early is because of a concept called spaced repetition, which YouTuber Ali Abdaal explains really well.
So the idea behind spaced repetition is that you allow your brain to forget some of the information, such that when you revise it again, it's not mindless repetition, it's actually taking you some brain power. And the more brain power it takes, the harder your brain has to work, and therefore the more strongly that information gets encoded.
Spaced repetition is the same reason that we don't have to relearn how to drive a car every time we hop behind the wheel. If we don't leave space between our study sessions, we don't give our brains the opportunity to start forgetting what we learned, and then have it reinforced, which helps store what we learn into long-term memory. This leads into tip number 2, flex scheduling. At their core, schedules are essentially diets before our time. And don't get me wrong, diets can be great, but the problem with diets is that as soon as we break them once, they lose all their mental power over us. This is why I use flex scheduling. Flex scheduling is basically when you create a 2 to 3 hour window in your calendar for every 1 hour of studying. The concept comes from flex time jobs, where you can adjust your start and end times of your workday as long as you still get your 8-hour shifts in. Last semester, during exam season, I would schedule 3 1-hour study sessions each day with a 3-hour window to complete each one. This strategy gives you the accountability of a calendar to keep you on track without sacrificing the freedom and flexibility of being schedule-free. I can honestly say I would not have held my A+ in my information systems class last semester without using this simple technique. Tip number 3 is probably the strangest of the 4, handwrite your study notes. Now, before you call me old, I don't mind if you use a computer to type out notes during class in order to keep up with the professor. However, in my opinion, review sheets should always be made using a pencil and pen. This is because most of us can type really fast and really easily without thinking very hard, which makes it way too easy for us to type out an entire review sheet without remembering a word that we wrote. On the other hand, writing out a review sheet on paper does a few things for us. 1, it forces us to slow down and helps our brain actually remember and pay attention to what we're writing. And 2 is that when we write on a piece of paper, we actively make decisions about where a piece of information is going to go on our blank paper canvas. Then, for those of us who are visual learners, some of you will actually be able to picture your review sheet while you're in the exam and remember where you wrote down a certain point on that piece of paper, which can then help you really remember what you actually wrote down. Online documents are great when our goal is to work fast, but when our goal is to learn efficiently, there's sometimes value in slowing down and doing things the old-fashioned way. Tip number 4, and my personal favorite, is to use something called gamification. My buddy and I at school have adopted this mindset where we treat our schooling like a game, which has made it way more fun for both of us. And once it's more fun for us, we end up being more willing to put in the time that's required for us to do really well. Joey from the YouTube channel Better Ideas has an awesome video where he breaks down how you can gamify different parts of your life.
How do we make real life into a video game? You have to clearly define what your goal is and what the steps you need to take to get there are. And then you need to clearly define the reward that you stand to gain for achieving that thing.
Our brains are wired to enjoy working towards goals, so we should take advantage of this in our student lives. So if you're sold and you want to try gamification, I use a simple 3-step process during exam season. First, choose a specific grade that you would consider to be winning a course. For myself, I push myself pretty hard and have mine at 90%, but you can adjust yours however you want depending on your abilities and your program. Second, you need to figure out what exam mark you're going to need in each course to win the course. I have a very simple formula you can use if you want to use it for yourself and figure out what exam marks you need. Finally, once you have these exam grades, step 3 is to look at them all and decide which ones are realistically going to be the hardest to achieve. Then you know where to allocate your time at the ones that you think are going to be the hardest, and then you can try and see how many of your courses you can win by the end of the semester. Now, if you push yourself, there's a very good chance you're not going to win every single course, and that is completely okay. The goal here is to do 10% better than we would have if we weren't doing any sort of gamification at all. And I think there's a very good chance you're going to achieve this goal if you take gamification seriously and have fun with it. Okay, so those are my 4 strategies for boosting your exam grades by 10%. Now, best of luck and go do good things.